What's up guys, and welcome to another Crack a Pack video. Today we are opening up a pack of Iconic Masters, notoriously one of the worst Masters sets, but does still have some very powerful cards in it that of course we are hoping to open. We will go through this as always, as if it's a pack one pick one scenario in draft. So we'll figure out what our pack one pick one would be if we were drafting this set. I did draft a little bit, so I do have some insight, but not necessarily a lot, so we'll see how we go. Sentinel is our first card. It's a 2/4 for 3 and a red. It has Defender. You can pay 1 red and tap it, and deals damage to target player equal to the number of creatures with Defender that you control. So funny enough, I didn't think this was a very playable card at first. However, there turns out there is a Defender deck focused on this card. This is the winning card in that deck because it just deals straight up damage to the opponent. So you block for days with all of your defenders, and then at the end of the turn you tap this, deal damage to your opponent equal to the number of defenders. Surprisingly, I kind of like that card I like this card for that reason. I don't know if it's first pickable. There's a lot of more powerful things that you can do, and that's definitely a bit of a jank deck for draft, but it is pretty fun. So honestly, not super unhappy about that. Infantry Veteran is a 1/1 for 1 white. You can tap it, and target attacking creature gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. This is a perfectly fine 1-drop. Nothing wrong with it at all. Being able to buff something that's also attacking is great, but it is just a 1/1 for 1. I don't think that this is better than the Vent Sentinel by any means, and so for that reason, not interested in it here. Thought Scour is an instant for 1 blue. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, and then you draw a card. If I'm not mistaken, there is a good bit of flashback in this set. This is very much an enabler for that deck. This is not a first pickable card, but it is just a cantrip in general for any blue deck. But also if you have that flashback built in, this is very much synergistic with that. You mill yourself, get something hopefully with flashback in it, and then you draw a card as well. Very good in that deck, but not first pickable. Mark of Mutiny is a sorcery for 2 and a red. Gain control of target creature until the end of the turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it and untap it. That creature gains haste until the end of the turn. This is very much like Active Treason, except it gets a +1/+1 counter. Perfectly good in an aggressive deck, also very good in a sacrifice outlet deck. Being able to sack the opponent's creature after swinging in with it is good, or just being able to swing in for a few points of damage on turn 3 is also pretty good if you're just trying to burn them out or something like that. Much rather be in those strategies already, so I'm not interested in first picking this, but it is a powerful card. Praise Vengeance, is an instant for 1 green. Target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn. This also has Rebound, so if you cast this spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves, teehee. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost, so you get double use out of this card, which is awesome. Very much like it as a combat trick. It's efficient. Again, getting that double play out of it is also a big boost. It just means you'll be able to hopefully kill something on your when your opponent swings in if you're blocking, and then on your upkeep you'll also be able to swing in with a very powerful creature. I like it a lot, but it is a combat trick, so I'm not interested in first picking it. Wrenchbind is a sorcery for 2 black. Target player discards 2 cards unless he or she discards an artifact card. I don't really like this card very much. It's okay. It's certainly resource denial, which is fine, but they do get to pick the cards, and for that reason, they can usually pick something that isn't really that big of a deal to discard. It is 2 cards, so they have to kind of play around some stuff, but it's not the biggest deal in the world, and so for that reason, not super interested. Bewilder is an instant for 2 and a blue. Target creature gets -3/-0 until the end of the turn, and then you draw a card. This is kind of an okay card in a blue deck as a way. It's sort of a negative combat trick. It's fine. You draw a card off of it. I like that, but it's definitely not first pickable. In no way is this first pickable by any means. Furnace Whelp is a 2/2 for 2 and 2 red. It does have flying. You can pay a red, and it gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn, the classic fire breathing mechanic for dragons. This is a pretty good aggressive card for like a red deck. I kind of like the Vent Sentinel more, to be honest, because this very easily dies to a lot of burn spells. So I think I'd honestly rather have the Vent Sentinel, surprisingly, but I do like Furnace Whelp. It's a perfectly fine 4-drop. Evolving Wilds is a land that you can tap, sacrifice, and then search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. This is very, very good if you're in multicolor strategies. A lot of times you'll end up in 2 colors, and you can run Evolving Wilds there, but if you're in 3 or more, you definitely want Evolving Wilds. It fixes you no matter what. It's perfect for that. Generally speaking, it's not that great of a card, but in those style decks, you'll definitely want it. Blinding Mage is a 1/2 for 1 and a white, You can pay a white, tap it, and then tap target creature. I do think that this is better, than Vent Sentinel. This allows white decks to do what they do best, which is swing in with a bunch of little white creatures. Being able to tap down a lot of their stuff just means that you have not only the advantage on offense, but you can also play defense. You can tap their creatures before their attack step. And make sure you save yourself some damage. Tappers in general are very, very good in limited, so definitely prioritize them if you can get them. This is just a very efficient one for sure. Our first uncommon is Visco Guildmage. It's a 2/2 for a white and a black. You can pay 1, a white, and a black, and target creature gains lifelink until the end of the turn. You can also pay the same, and then whenever you gain life this turn, each opponent loses that much life. There's a lot of weird combos that go on with cards like this. Visco Guildmage is a very powerful card. I honestly do think it's better than the Blinding Mage just because of what it enables. Being able to get into a life gain strategy and then start nuking your opponent just when you gain life is pretty good. And so I think I would take that over the Blinding Mage. That might be incorrect, but that's just personal preference. Fogbank works very well in the Defender deck. It's a 0/2 for 1 and a blue. It does have flying and Defender, but you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by Fogbank. That's really cool because it's just an ongoing blocker. They obviously can just burn it out. It is only combat damage it's blocking, but that's still pretty good. It just means that it's always going to be there unless they can straight up remove it. Stalls the game very, very hard for that Vent Sentinel deck. So I kind of like that, but it's definitely not better than the Guildmage for sure, so definitely not going to pick it there. Bogbrew Witch is a 1/3 for 3 and a black. You can pay 2, tap it, and search your library for a card named Festering Newt or Bubbling Cauldron, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. I really hate this card. I hate this like weird 3-card combo that they had with this. Festering Newt is definitely the best of the 3, but without it, this whole thing is just absolutely useless. So it's not even really worth talking about. I just don't like this card. It's too much setup for a limited deck, in my opinion. Our rare is Day of the Dragons, so it's 4 and 3 blue for an enchantment. When Day of the Dragons enters the battlefield, exile all creatures you control, then create that many 5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying. When this leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all dragons you control, then return the exiled cards to the battlefield under your control. This is an interesting finisher, but I find it's a bit of a win more card. It's not a very good high value rare by any means, but if you've got a lot of creatures out, then of course you're going to get a lot of 5/5 dragons, but if you've also got a lot of creatures out, you're probably already winning the game, unless you're in a board stall position. In that instance, this is probably going to break that board stall pretty heavily, and is good in that situation, but kind of only that situation. So for that reason, I really don't like this card very much. We do have another foil Vent Sentinel here, so we won't talk about that again. Honestly, some people would argue Day of Dragons is good, and they may very well be right. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below, but I would probably go for the Guildmage. If I'm really feeling fun, which I kind of am, I would go Vent Sentinel, just because there's a lot of good defenders, and you know that there's another Vent Sentinel and Fogbank in this pack that hopefully you will get one of when that comes back to you. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I would probably go Guildmage as the safer pick. But feel free to let me know what your pick would be in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like or a comment down below. And as always, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome content. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next Crack a Pack episode.